Hey, greetings everybody, Gleekon here again with another episode of Lore of Warcraft. So we left off with just a little snippet into what's happening in Northrend. There were some Night Elf, parts of the Night Elf Empire up there, but they pretty much, they played themselves there. They tried to find magic, they were a little bit greedy with it, and they went up against the Blue Dragonflight, even though it was small, but the Blue Dragonflight is not happy. They're kind of crazy. They didn't like it, and in an attempt to fight them off, they basically destroyed themselves, creating the Crystal Strong Forest in the process. So stay a while and listen to this next one. It looks like we've jumped forward a couple thousand years to 4,500 years before the Dark Portal. This is the felling of Andrassil, and if you remember, or if I'm correct in my remembering, Andrassil, I believe, is the name of the world tree that's on top of Mount Hyjal. So, let's see how it goes. When the Sundering tore through Azeroth, the tectonic devastation rattled the captive old gods and weakened their keeper-wrought prisons. So, in the story we read, the old gods were actually like dismayed. They were sad at the Sundering because they were trying to get out. But in this, it's also inadvertently led to the weakening of their prisons. The apocalyptic event also stirred the malign entities to new degrees of deadly awareness. So that's a little bit in conflict with the book. Over the millennia that followed, great tendrils of corruption spilled from the old gods' damaged prisons and gradually seeped to the world's surface. Yeah, we're talking about 5,500 years. Northrend, where Yogg-Saron was imprisoned, saw some of the most severe effects. Festering blooms of a strange new material, serenite, spread throughout the crust of the land and sapped the life of native flora and fauna. Serenite's also the main type of ore that you mine in that expansion. Okay. Upon discovering serenite, a small group of druids from the Cenarian Circle decided to eradicate it. They reasoned that if the life-giving energies of the World Tree could heal the lands around Mount Hyjal, another great tree could do the same in Northrend. The group's leader, Fandral Staghelm, soon became obsessed with the idea. Okay. Some druids advised him to seek the guidance of the dragon aspects. Their knowledge and blessings had allowed Nordrassil to flourish. Without them, planting another great tree could have unforeseen consequences, yet Staghelm believed there was no time to wait. Serenite was spreading unchecked throughout Northrend and even in other parts of the world. Rather than waste time in endless debate, Staghelm moved to act without consulting the aspects or the rest of the Cenarian Circle. Fandral and his closest followers secretly cut 6 enchanted branches from the boughs of Nordrassil. Okay, so Andrassil's not the main one, it's Nordrassil. With the branches in hand, they traveled the world to locations where serenite blooms had sprung to life. One by one, the druids planted the branches in these regions, hoping to thwart the corruption. The areas where Fandral and his allies left their mark included Ashenvale, and I wonder if that is what becomes the main one over in Darnassus. The Crystal Song Forest, okay, Feralis, and 2 remote regions in the eastern kingdoms that would later be known as Duskwood and the Hinterlands. Okay, so I don't actually... Oh, you know what? If you think about it, the Duskwood Hinterlands, at least those 2 for sure, those are where portals appear. Things that have never actually been tapped by the makers, but they're these active portal or inactive portals just sitting there on the maps. Okay. The branches quickly took root and became new trees. Together they acted like conduits, channeling the powers of the Emerald Dream into the waking world, strengthening the nearby wildlife and scouring the serenite deposits. Heartened by their success, the druids planted the last and greatest of the branches in the mountains of Northrend over the largest growth of serenite. This new world tree, named Andrassil, or Crown of the Snow, grew with astonishing speed, and the benefits were almost immediate. The spread of serenite ceased and wildlife flourished anew. This would be in the Grizzly Hills area. Malfurion and the rest of the Cenarian Circle became furious upon learning that these branches had been planted without their approval. They did, however, agree that the plan seemed to have worked. For several decades, Andrassil towered over Northrend and all seemed well. Yet in time, circumstances changed. Bloody battles erupted between the Tonka and the forest nymphs of Northrend, 2 races not known for their warring ways. The fighting was sudden and shockingly vicious, filled with barbarism and unspeakably vile acts. Word slowly reached the Druids, and the Cenarian Circle launched an expedition to investigate the source of the violence. What the Druids found chilled them to their marrow. Andrassil's roots had reached so deep into the earth that they had touched Yogg-Saron's subterranean prison. The old god had infused the tree with its foul energies, and thus all living creatures in the area were slowly being driven to madness. The Cenarian Circle knew that without the blessing of the aspects, Andrassil was vulnerable to corruption. They were also aware that there was no way to spare the world tree or ease its suffering. Yeah, because if you remember, when Nordrassil was planted, it was planted under the blessings of the aspects. The Cenarian Circle sorrowfully decided that the only recourse was to destroy Andrassil. With heavy hearts, they felled the great tree. It slammed down onto the icy surface of Northrend with a deafening boom that echoed even through the ethereal forests of the Emerald Dream. Forever after, the Druids would refer to the fallen world tree as Nordrassil, or Broken Crown. Although killing Andrassil had been a heartbreaking task, the Cenarian Circle was pleased it had stopped the growth of Serenite. Yet unbeknownst to the Druids, something dark had taken root in the Emerald Dream. Yogg-Saron had used the trees planted by Fandral as a doorway into the dream, a doorway through which the other old gods could grasp the ethereal domain as well. Small seeds of corruption were spread throughout Ysera's realm. In time, these seeds polluted the dreamways. This marked the beginning of what would become known as the Emerald Nightmare. Okay, so we have some plantings in some of these dormant portals that we've seen. Duskwood definitely has one. And the Hinterlands definitely has one. I can, off the top of my head, I can picture exactly where those are. I don't remember Feralus having one, but that doesn't mean it doesn't. Crystal Song Forest is a dead zone anyway, so I'm not that surprised that it has something I can't remember. And Ashenvale, don't fully remember it having one. But okay. So those created these giant trees. I don't think they get names, but they did create portals that have never really been tapped, that lead to the Emerald Nightmare. And I think that's interesting. That this is also the creation of the Emerald Nightmare, and it also sets up the Grizzly Hills region and that big tree that you see there. Okay, another episode in the pipes 5x5. Thank you guys, as always, for listening. I will catch you all on the next episode of Lore of Warcraft.